This is a test of the City of Palaca audio system.
Okay. Good evening, everyone that's here. We're here for public discussion concerning the city's FRDAP grant application. And this is an application that's due September 30th, 2024. And primarily, we're talking about utilizing it for not just phase two improvements, but also riverfront revitalization initiative as well in this case. And that is because phase two is, from what I can see, that was commenced back in June of 2024. And the idea was that there would be improvements to the southern end of the riverfront park. It would include construction of new restrooms and boat launch and marina, new pedestrian and bike paths. So, stormwater treatment, underground utilities, and realignment of roadways included in that is the Riverfront Revitalization Initiative. And this was to encompass funding, or the master plan show that we would do things like the event lawn, floating docks, interactive splash pad. So today we're holding this meeting or discussion to let you know what we are intending on doing. We have the opportunity to apply for funding for splash pad. The cost of the splash pad can vary anywhere between 200,000 to 450,000 or more. We currently have budgeted in the next year budget 375,000, and potentially this could be funding up to 200,000. So it would allow us to have a total of about 575,000 for the splash pad. Hopefully, we will also do other improvements, such as improve some of the benches, upgrade the park. Oh, why don't you say your part? You can stand to the podium like I did.
We're also going to try to utilize some of those funds to replace some of the aging swing sets, the zip line, things of that nature up in the Riverfront Park. So that would encompass that as well. Same place we're looking to put the splash pad. So
Improving restrooms, also improving security and lighting, so that risk of crime and so forth could be reduced. Miss Jackie, is there anything else that I should mention, please?
We did talk about
You could say it.
We also talked about at the amphitheater to make that ADA compliant. Upgrade some, landscaping items, the fountain, the maintenance of the fountain. So those are a few other items we had discussed.
Thank you. The application itself, it has a point system. And so the more that we can improve the proposed location, not just limit it to the splash pad, the higher number of points we should achieve. Okay. Right. So therefore, we needed to have this meeting to also be compliant with the application process, to receive any input that we can from the community. We are going to have several more as well. And Mr. Peter, could you walk us through your, or you want me to do it?
I'm
Go ahead.
happy to walk it.
Please.
I'm just the photographer of this.
But a good photographer of that.
Well, look, at the direction of our former city manager,
Yes, sir.
he asked me to fly our drone over two proposed locations that he was talking about. And Sonny, if you could, is that the first one? No, can go after the very first. There were two proposed locations he was suggesting. One is south of the amphitheater, the present amphitheater, on the side of the former amphitheater. If people remember, that's one site. And then the next site is south of the fountain and north of the playground at the moment. There's two sites that he was recommending.
Thank you.
That's,
So those are the two sites that we have pictures of.
that's, that's what the former city manager was suggesting and asked me to put.
Thank you.
I don't know what the criteria was for choosing those, but that's what I did.
Okay, appreciate that. Additionally, just looking around the state of Florida, the splash pads, once they are installed in cities, have served to be, of course, an outlet for children and families, and also as a drawer in of tourism. So there are some good reasons to consider having the splash pads. Tampa alone has about 10 different splash pads installed in the various parks. So that's another consideration for looking at putting in a splash pad here in the city of Palaca. I believe too that the commissioners thought about this about 4 or 5 years ago. At that time, the cost was about 85,000. Recently, a city near Palaca did install, and I believe they spent about 400,000. Right, so the 400,000 number is relatively normal, but it also means that more was added in, more than just the splash pad. And that's it for us, public comments, right?
Would you like to go through the remaining of the presentation?
Through the way?
The remaining slides?
Oh, yes, please, I'm sorry. Go ahead, okay.
Um, So here's some examples of what a splash pad would look like. I think most folks know what a splash pad kind of looks like, but these are just some examples that they've pulled.
Right, if we do
Move back to the video.
proceed, that last, can you go to that last one?
I can go back.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's good to
Hang tight.
see at night. You know, I mean, that extends it beyond just children coming out in the sun, you know, because now it looks beautiful for couples walking around in the park. So we actually can utilize the splash pads to enhance tourism as well. Okay. Any public comments?
We have a question. I
Yes.
don't have comments. Is there not like a master, because we're talking about this as the riverfront. Is there not a master map or master plan?
There
See
is,
that, just, that's my only, I'm just curious at this point.
okay, so there's a master plan. I don't have it here. We've had a large turnover with
No, I
that.
completely understand.
So, but you are able to request that and we'll, you know, it can be a public request. We'll definitely respond.
I can mention, Ms. Carty, if you'd like me to.
I would.
When Ms. Pappas and I were doing some preliminary fact finding on the city's master plan for the riverfront, we did find listed in the master plan a water feature. So that's kind of where this has come from, is the splash pad could be considered a water feature. Just as a resident myself and remembering when the master plan was put together, I think that was kind of the idea behind the fountain, but the fountain's been there forever.
Well,
So,
just my,
Say your name and all that
Ben-
good stuff.
Benji Bates, 3400 Crow Avenue, Palaca, Florida. No, I think this is great. I remember it was talked about. I also sit on the Rotary Club of Palaca. I was in the committee when we did our 100-year anniversary and we worked with the county. And so I was very familiar in how splash pad worked. I was just curious again, because this is, as we know, one of the most valuable pieces of real estate in the city, that if we're going to do it, want to do it right, want it to be in the best location, and just make sure that it has continuity for, again, there's a lot of events down there. I think it would be important to potentially run this by those that have done previous events, the Blue Crab, Azalea Festival, just because I just want to get it right and make sure that it's the best for our city. It would be a great feature because up until out at Triangle Park, our community was one of the few in the state that had no water access. And I think that's something that we need to take into account because we talk about how we have this amazing river. And we do, but sometimes accessing it can be a challenge. I think anything we can do for boat ramps, for floating docks, for parking, and then again, having activities for kids and family is great. So those are my only comments. I think it's great. I think you can do a lot with it. I think it'll help tourism. I think it'll help kids. I think it can be educational on a hot summer day. I was a little concerned about the one location, kind of, I guess this side, that one concerned, just looking at it from an event space. You know, you've only got so much event space. And it is a decent ways away from the existing park.
From the main part.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, because the other one's closer. That was my only, I'm just not criticizing. I just want to get it right and make sure. And that's why I asked, like, what is what's the 3,000, where, if we could paint the ultimate picture of the river park, where do we want it to be in 10, 15 years and work off of that? So there is continuity. And
Yes.
unfortunately, there is so much turnover. That's just why, how do we get that and try to help to keep that? I think it's great. Yeah, this is awesome. But just those were my only, I guess, questions or concerns.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I would even go a step further, and with your input just now, I think hopefully we can have some kind of committee that encompasses the community being a part of it. So I don't think we should, as the city, that we do it in silo, that a person like yourself should be a part of working with us to help ensure that we really do look at continuity and the future. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, please.
Allegra Kitchens, 1027 South 12th Street, Palatka, Florida. Benji Bates hit the nail on the head talking about events, but he missed the main one. That's the BASS event, which comes every couple of years. With some of the improvements that have been done to the park, we almost lost the bass people. It's very important that we keep them. Our fishing tournaments are the number one most important thing that happens at the riverfront. Yeah, the public wants to go down there and play and splash around. That's not a bad idea, but you got to look at the big picture, like Benji said. The big picture is what brings in the most tourist money, what brings in the most bed and breakfast money, what brings in the most people that come and leave their money and then they leave. And that's the bass tournaments. All of them are very important. And as we eat up our riverfront space with all kinds of improvements of sorts, whether they're for fun or whatever, we're eating up space that the bass tournaments need to use. We need to check with the Bassmasters. I think it's BASS. Check with them, find out how much they need. They've already been limited tremendously. They bring the TV stations down here on this stuff. The splash pad, I'm not necessarily against. We looked at it when I was on the commission. We decided it was not a good idea. We were told the best one you get, the safest one, is the kind that it's operated by a computer and somebody mans the computer station and makes sure everybody's okay and there's safety and everything works well. We nixed that when I was on the commission. It's been discussed again since then. The other thing is I know exactly what that master plan was. I was on the commission. I can tell you every inch of it just about that was proposed. We did not approve that plan because we did not approve most of what Mr. Michael Redd and Associates were asking us to do. We did accept it, but we made the notation on the minutes that it was not approved. It was only accepted into the city. We've done parts of that. Yes, the splash pad was part of it. He wanted it where the clock tower has been moved to. But that was a splash pad. He wanted the big fancy one that cost way over $400,000. He also wanted to have a white sand beach so people could swim in the river, the polluted river. And I pointed out about the alligators, and Mr. Redd, having done most of his work in Saudi Arabia, said, well, he said, that's no problem. We'll just put up a barrier in the river like keep sharks out. Well, the audience about died laughing on that because everybody in Florida knows alligators walk on land, and having somebody inside a fenced area in the water just get Meals on Wheels. He also wanted to have tiki huts. He wanted to have a water fountain. I mean, a water feature in because again, he did most of his stuff in Saudi Arabia where there's deserts, and he did waterfalls and water features. He wanted to have a cypress area where they planted cypress trees where the amphitheater used to be, so that the people and the kids in Palatka would know what cypress looked like growing. Didn't know we were growing it in the ravine gardens and all over the swamps. But anyway, that was not a very good plan. We've used part of it and we've not used part of it. He also proposed moving the submarine memorial, which can't be done because that's approved by the Secretary of the Navy. And anyway, there was a lots of stuff. The original plan is big, it's massive. It doesn't apply to anything on the riverfront hardly, but some of it was good. I'm not against the splash pad, but what I am against is taking up more riverfront space. Again, Mr. Bates said, valuable riverfront property. The most valuable part of our riverfront is the fact we used to have an unobscured riverfront view. Former Mayor John Delaney said years ago, he said, the only thing that Palatka has better than Jacksonville, he says, you have the last unobscured riverfront park that has nothing blocking the view of the river. Well, we've worked like dogs to change that, and by golly, we're almost there. However, number one, most important, in my opinion, is first of all, check with the BASS people, check with the other fishing tournaments, make sure wherever this splash pad goes that it's not going to interfere with that. As well as, and when you enlarge the playground, I was at the Presbyterian Church yesterday for Constitution Day. The playground's pretty massive right now. It takes up quite a bit of the city property. And the other thing is, and this is probably maybe more important than checking with the bass people and the other fishing tournaments, you must check with Putnam County and find out what issues they are having, and they are having issues. I was called today and informed they were. Find out what issues they've had. Call St. Augustine Beach, they have a splash pad. Find out what the liability issue is when somebody slips or gets hurt. You must find out what that is. What's the cost of upkeeping it? It's great to get the money and have a splash pad. Oh, that's great. I'm going to go down and play in it. It feels wonderful. I played in the rain last night. It was great. Really. But who's going to upkeep it? They didn't upkeep the veterans fountains. Look what happened to them. Private individuals had to go in and fix them. So who's going to upkeep this splash pad? What happens when they pour soap in it, or they pour Clorox in it, or anything else that they do like Palatka does? I love Palatka, but let's face it, we got some vandals. Again, check on the liability. Who's going to upkeep it? The money to build it's fine. Who's going to upkeep it? Liability and the fishing tournaments. So please check those out before you go jumping in on this is a great idea. Here's a piece of pie. You can have it. But is it a poison pie and it's going to give you diarrhea later?
What you say? The comments are very, very, very great comments. And those items, we will follow the comments of the community as recommended. We will follow those. And thank you so much for those comments. Is that it? So if there's nothing more, we can end the meeting. Thank you for attending.